Welcome back, class. Today we will be talking about Lawrence Kohlberg and his theory of moral development. Let's get started. First, let's talk about some buzzwords. These are the concepts you may need a quick refresher on to help you process as we delve into the theory. First, we have social cognition, a subtopic of social psychology that focuses on how people process, store, and apply information about other people and social situations. It focuses on the role that cognitive processes play in our social interactions. The way we think about others plays a major role in how we think, feel, and interact with the world around us. Next, self-concept. This is how we perceive our behaviors, abilities, and unique characteristics. It is the image we have of ourselves, influenced by many forces, including our interaction with important people in our lives. It affects our motivations, attitudes, and behaviors. It also affects how we feel about the person we think we are, including whether we are competent or have self-worth. And lastly, moral development. The process through which children develop proper attitudes and behaviors towards other people in society, based on social and cultural norms, rules, and laws. It refers to the ways people choose between right and wrong as they grow and develop. So far, so good? Wonderful. Lawrence Kohlberg was an American psychologist and educator born on October 25, 1927 in Bronxville, New York. Lawrence was the youngest of 4 children from Alfred Kohlberg, a successful silk merchant of Jewish ancestry, and Charlotte Kohlberg, a Protestant and a skilled amateur chemist. His parents divorced at the age of 5, and he chose to live with his father. He went on to graduate from Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts in 1945. In 1948, he enrolled at the University of Chicago, where he completed his bachelor's in psychology 1 year and a PhD in psychology in 1958. It was while he was working on his PhD that he became interested in Jean Pigot's work on the moral development of children. This led to the beginning works of the theory he is most well known for today, the theory of moral development. He went on to hold teaching positions at various institutions before settling at Harvard University in 1968. In 1971, while conducting research in Belize, Kohlberg reportedly contracted a parasitic infection that caused him to be physically ill and depressed through much of the rest of his life. On January 17, 1987, in Boston, Massachusetts, he ultimately succumbed to his depression and committed suicide. By studying the answers to his questions from children of different ages, Kohlberg hoped to discover how moral reasoning changed as people grew older. So how did Kohlberg conduct his experiment? Well, he interviewed 72 Chicago white boys between the ages of 10 to 16. Each boy was given a 2-hour interview. What Kohlberg was mainly interested in was not whether the boys judged the actions right or wrong, but the reasons given for the decision. As he suspected, he found these reasons tended to change as the children got older. The children's responses became the basis of his theory, where he defined 3 levels of moral development, each encompassing 2 different stages, as you can see in the chart on the right. Now, according to Kohlberg, people can only pass through these levels in the order listed. Each new stage replaces a reasoning typical of the earlier stage, and not everyone achieves all the stages. What do you think? Let's take a look at the most famous moral dilemma posed by Kohlberg to his interview subjects, the Heinz dilemma. That was a tough decision, wasn't it? Can you imagine having to answer that question as a 10-year-old boy? Please jot down the following questions as your assignment will be a one-page journal entry of your answers. Continuing on, let's discuss each level and the appropriate response to Heinz's dilemma at each stage. Pre-conventional morality is the first level of moral development and lasts until approximately age 9. Here, morality is externally controlled. Rules imposed by authority figures are conformed to in order to avoid punishment or receive rewards. This perspective involves the idea that what is right is what one can get away with or what is personally satisfying. Avoiding punishment. The first stage highlights the self-interest of children in their decision-making, as they seek to avoid punishment at all costs. At a young age, they believe that rules are meant to be followed, as those in charge will undoubtedly follow through with punishment. A child in this stage may respond with, "It's bad to steal," or "It's against the law." So Heinz should not steal the medication from the pharmacy, as he may go to jail if he is caught. Self-interest. The second stage relies heavily on the exchange of favors, the idea being, "What's in it for me?" Children at this stage are not motivated by friendship or respect, but by the personal advantages involved. Here, children begin to recognize that there is more than one point of view for each matter. Each person is different and will therefore have a unique outlook according to their interests. A child here may say that Heinz may think that it is right to take the drug, but the pharmacist would not. At the conventional level, conformity to social rules remains important to the individual. However, the emphasis shifts from self-interest to relationships with other people and social systems. The individual strikes to support rules that are set forth by others, such as parents, peers, and the government, in order to win their approval or to maintain social order. Good boy attitude. This stage recognizes the desire to be accepted into societal groups, as well as how each person is affected by the outcome. It highlights close relationships with family and friends, and while they believe that people should behave appropriately in their communities, they recognize that there is no simple solution to moral dilemmas. Children are typically preteens or early teenagers and have now adopted the societal norms as their own. They accepted that Heinz should steal the medicine, as he was a good man with good intentions for wanting to save his wife. Law and order morality. Stage 4 attempts to maintain social order in the community. Here, laws, rules, and regulations are to be followed and obeyed. Each person becomes more aware of the impact of everyone's actions on others and focuses on their own rule, following the rules and obeying authorities. Participants here would argue that while they understood why Heinz wanted to steal the medication, they could not support the idea of theft. At the post-conventional level, the individual moves beyond the perspective of his or her own society. Morality is defined in terms of abstract principles and values that apply to all situations and societies. The individual attempts to take the perspective of all people. In social contract, members begin to consider what makes for a good society. They're able to step back and assess each situation as a whole, reflecting on what is good and just. Reflecting on the morals and ethics of their current community allows them to address inconsistencies in their values and attempt to fix what they do not agree with. Here, people acknowledge the introduction of abstract reasoning. Heinz should steal the medication for his wife because she is deathly ill and the laws do not take the circumstances into account. Principle. Stage 6 was developed when Kohlberg discovered that elected processes do not always result in fair outcomes. Moral reasoning is based on personal values. So it is okay for the man to take the medication without paying, as objects or property are not as valuable as his wife's life. Take a moment to reflect on the chart, as it summarizes appropriate responses at each stage. Here are a few of the criticisms of Kohlberg's work. 1. the dilemmas are artificial because most of the dilemmas are unfamiliar to most people. Kohlberg's subjects were aged between 10 and 16. They've never been married and never been placed in a situation remotely like the one in the story. How should they know whether Heinz should steal the drug? 2. The sample is biased. Kohlberg's theory was based on an all-male sample. The stages reflect a male definition of morality. Men's morality is based on abstract principles of law and justice, while women's morality is based on principles of compassion and care. 3. The dilemmas are hypothetical. In a real situation, what course of action a person takes will have real consequences, and sometimes very unpleasant ones for themselves. Would subjects reason in the same way if they were placed in a real situation? There's just no way to know. Fourth, lastly, the way in which Kohlberg carried out his research when constructing this theory may not have been the best way to test whether all children follow the same sequence of stage progression, since his research was cross-sectional, meaning he interviewed children of different ages to see what level of moral development they were at. Click each link to be taken to the direct source of information. Great job, everyone!